Hello, everybody. Welcome to our super special coverage of No Time to Die. The real reporters have returned once again, even though Todd has tried to kill it a bajillion times. They're never going to die. I'm joined with
because there might be no time.
Oh my
to die.
goodness. That was the worst English I've said recently. No time, something, blah blah blah. Anyways, joined with me tonight is Mr. David Feldman. We just watched the movie
less than like a couple hours ago.
It was like 2 hours ago at this point.
A couple hours ago. Yeah. It finished up a couple hours ago.
So, if you haven't watched the film yet, I highly encourage you to do so because this podcast is going to be rife with spoilers. We're not holding anything back.
We are deep diving into the mythos of Bond. James Bond.
I guess let's get started.
Yeah.
Overall, what did you think of the film?
Mind fucking blown. So here's the thing. I'm not gonna do any spoilers yet, but I'm gonna say right now, turn away, back off, turn off podcast if you don't know anything about Bond, especially this last film, because man, I tell you what, those trailers did not do this movie justice. They didn't show a damn thing, it feels like, because a lot of this I wasn't expecting. If you're a Bond fan, watch as much Bond as you possibly can to the point where you're about ready to be burned out and you're mumbling Sean Connery idioms in your sleep, because there is so much fan service in this movie. There is a lot of Easter eggs. There is a lot of gorgeous women, martinis to be had, and they completely go off script. So if you don't know anything about Daniel Craig's Bond, he is a completely different Bond from before. You know, in the first Casino Royale movie that he did, it was a very stark departure from traditional Bond, not just because of his physical looks. I mean, yes, okay, he's blonde. Ooh. But really, the difference is how he portrayed Bond, because this is a Bond that was new. He was young. He didn't have the panache, the suave. He was emotional. You saw Bond puke for the first time. You saw him, really not have any type of footing as a secret agent. We, in fact, saw his first kill to become a secret agent, or rather his second and then first kill. Later. So here's the thing, because of such a completely different Bond, he had to go out in style. What do you think, Geoff?
I thought they did a pretty good job with this one. The entire film felt kind of, I wanted to say like wistful, but it had definitely like notes of, hey, this is going to be the final thing.
It was definitely a swan song, if you will.
Yeah,
swan song.
They kind of brought back a lot of the hallmarks of the, especially his run at things. They, especially at the very beginning, kind of calling back to Vesper Lind yet again, kind of tying it all together.
To be fair, they kind of had to, because they retconned Spectre. They retconned Quantum. And then they retconned Spectre a little with the Spectre movie. And they brought back in some like some of those callbacks to the original movie.
Right.
And so I feel like they were forced to do that in order to kind of tie everything up as to what would be Daniel Craig's last film as Bond. So it makes sense why they did some of that, but it was definitely not something I was expecting for the first run. The first 5 minutes was literally Madeline Swan's story as the time that she killed the henchman that was supposed to assassinate her and her mother, which she talked about back in Spectre on the train, if you remember, Geoff.
Yeah, well, and also he was actually there to murder Mr. White, her father. So it wasn't originally, but just happened to be like, you know what, maybe I'll just take care of this now.
And we find out it was actually an act of retribution, not just a random killing.
Right. So And this is, I'm gonna apologize in advance for our audience. There's a lot of names in this movie that I'm not going to be able to pronounce very well.
So,
The
Saffron
first
was the bad guy.
Yeah, so Saffron, played by Rami Malek.
Rami.
Remy or Rami?
I thought it was Rami. Ram.
See,
Maybe.
I'm already off to.
We're already screwed. Hey, I could be wrong. You don't know.
Well, I can't even pronounce the name of the last name of the director, so there's also a problem there. We're just gonna call him Kenny because that's his first name. It's not. I'm just trying not to be offensive, so I apologize. I thought the film was shot very well. There's definitely. I don't know if you watched the first season of True Detective, but that was directed also by this same director. And a lot of his like visual sensibilities are like really carried through, especially like the opening shot where Saffron is coming into the house and the door, that like glass door is kind of like obscuring his face for the first time.
Yeah, all you get is kind of like a murky image of a male, and that's really all you see.
Right. And there's also later on in the movie the forest scene where it's all kind of like foggy.
Oh yeah, it definitely added to a sense of suspense, and like you thought, oh man, like Bond is out of practice, he's aging. You really feel it, especially during that fight sequence where he's at a complete disadvantage, and you're not sure how he's gonna make it out of this because, like, he was surrounded by multiple. I guess I'm gonna have to be the first one to spoil stuff. So, Bond finds Madeline Swan at her house that was mentioned in the prologue, which, by the way, was the longest prologue in history. And what I also noticed, besides that, is you didn't see the very traditional gun barrel shot. Do you know what I'm talking about, Geoff?
Yeah, the traditional gun barrel shot, but they did have it later on in the film.
They did.
Because I saw you go, aha, when it happened.
Yeah, I totally did. Because I was like, ah! then I was sad.
Yeah.
I was very immediately sad because if you don't know anything about the film, I'm still not going to spoil it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to allude to the fact that there's a reason why we're calling it the Swan Song. If you don't know anything about the swan, the rumor is that a swan knows that it's going to die, and it will do a beautiful song at the end of its life, right before it passes away. So I don't know what that means, but maybe I do.
But
maybe I do. And that particular scene with him shooting down a hallway. In the final act, you see him shooting down a hallway, killing a would-be attacker, in very much the traditional style of when you see every single James Bond movie enter the first act, which is him shooting down the barrel of a gun and you see blood. But this barrel was a hallway, and this hallway just happened to look like a gun barrel. Yeah. And he does this move, but if you really know anything about film, you'll notice that, he's very far away. He looks tired. He's, exhausted, and he looks to resolve himself to what is about to come next and continue on with his fight that he's, trying to save the world with. So, I guess here's the thing. I'm going to spoil something right now. If anyone knows anything about one of the best characters in Bond, it's Felix Leiter, who was introduced in Casino Royale. In this last part, in No Time to Die, him and Felix are much older. They're clearly brothers in arms, and during this mission, James Bond has retired from the Secret Service. He's a retired commander, and he gets employed by the CIA to do a mission that has to do with uh, our old friend Spectre.
Well,
And
yeah, I
what?
mean, to the events leading up to that though was interesting. It's because um it's basically the relationship between Bond and Madeline Swan is kind of a unique one. There's not really much of a carry through throughout the series of Bond like actually having a relationship with like a lady like ongoing.
Like a romance, you mean?
Yeah, now it's been alluded to with Moneypenny that there's something in the past there.
So with there's a couple of different actual so did you know that Bond was married at one point?
Yes.
So in her in Her Majesty's Secret Service, in that Bond film, Blofeld, the main villain of that film, kills Tracy, which is the love of Bond's life, and forever he was obviously changed, and which led to the more modern interpretation of Bond's character. Um, but interestingly enough, a love of his life also was introduced. And I believe I'm trying to remember which Pierce Brosnan. I think it's The World Is Not Enough in Pierce Brosnan's Bond, and he was in love uh, with the main bad guy's wife. So it's not the first time it was, but it's the first time we actually get to see it
I would
in modern
say
Bond.
I would say more so that more than one film is dedicated to that relationship.
Oh no, this is the first time a Bond. You know what? I'm gonna be a little enlightened here. I know the traditional term Bond girl is the way it's been, but you know, I have to agree with Leia Sudol in this term, and I'm gonna say Bond woman. This Bond woman, this is the first Bond woman to ever return back to the screen, and I think she, because of that landmark return, I think she deserves that to a little respect on that with we'll say Bond woman.
Well, and even that's actually an interesting point. Daniel Craig is himself has actually said it, especially with this movie. He has never viewed um, the women in this film as Bond women. He is. I have to find the exact quote. Um,
Interesting. Uh,
but basically, he's like, listen, they're women that happens to be um in the film. Like that's it. There's no other.
yeah, they're not really the traditional toys that Bond really kind of plays with. As bad as that sounds, because you know, more to anything, especially with Craig's Bond, most of the women that are in the series are very strong, independent, well thought out characters that have a strong impact on our main character. They are women that just he happens to meet in the field. They're doing their own thing. He really, is there supporting them as much as they're supporting him. There's a duality to this versus a singular, power dominating the force, and everyone else is like, hey, I'm here to give you a clip. No, there's a lot of give and take
So
is in the scenes.
his specific quote, it says, no more Bond girls. They don't exist anymore. They may exist again, but not in my movies."
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
fair.
I,
So I
I mean,
mean,
let's take on the Armis, the Paloma in uh,
okay.
the second act.
I was glad that you brought that up. So do you know who actually helped co-write this script?
I know as a female.
Phoebe
That's
Waller-Bridge.
I do not know what that means. I'm very
So
ignorant when it comes to
that's okay.
important people
I'm gonna
in the industry.
I'm gonna explain who.
Okay,
Do you know the show Fleabag by any chance?
never heard of it.
Okay. Do you know did you watch Solo, the movie?
Never heard of that either.
The Han Solo movie.
Oh, yeah. I kind of. Does it count if I slept several times during the movie?
Do you remember the robot that Lando had that like integrated with
Ah.
the Millennium Falcon?
Oh yeah.
So
Vaguely.
she was played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Phoebe
Ah.
Waller-Bridge is a really great writer in general. She has a very unique uh, voice, I would say. I guess very irreverent style of humor. So when she
Hey.
was called by she actually was brought in by Daniel Craig to help punch up the script.
Okay. Okay.
So that whole scene with her and the way that she acted and the way that she was just like kind of messy, not like held together.
Who?
That is Phoebe Waller-Bridge all over. Like that
Okay. So
is.
Ana de Armas is basically the physical interpretation of her writing.
I would say so, yeah. Like if and someone pointed out like, look, if you were to like point out the one big contribution to that script, not saying that she didn't help in other areas, but
Right.
like her voice really fucking shines in that particular scene is like that's her.
Okay, just so we can talk about the character real quick. If you don't understand why this is kind of interesting, Ana de Armas, like I said, Paloma, as she is in the movie, basically comes along and is very twitchy, like very not there, not remotely anything like a traditional, you would expect a traditional agent to be. Typically, when you see these movies, you see like a super suave agent, very much like our wonderful Lashana Lynch, you'll see later on. Um, you know, she's like, I have no words. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm very nervous. You know, she's
One
very
of
disarming. And
one of the funny parts is that she was like,
I
he's
had
like,
3
oh,
weeks of training.
the swallow flies over the blob, and she's like, what are you talking about?
Right, because because if you don't know anything about like traditional agent films, like every single secret agent film ever to exist, they have a code phrase, and so they say this code phrase, and this other person's like, "Let me respond in my code phrase response," and then everyone's cool, and we aren't going to kill each other.
Right,
This
but
chick doesn't do that.
she's like, oh, when I get nervous, I forget things, and I'm like, oh god. She was just great. I
Not
was
only
so
that, but
happy.
she goes, yeah, I've had 3 weeks of training. I'm like,
Yeah,
holy shit. I mean,
it's
and that's the funny.
definitely.
Yeah, you see Daniel Craig's character responding kind of like he's like, oh,
So
this
I
is
mean,
not
like
good.
it was nice because I felt like the last movie was just super serious 100% of the time.
Right. There was
In
not a
this
lot of
one,
humor.
like they definitely brought some humor to it because he was just like it was really nice because as it is Daniel Craig's last outing, you could tell he was enjoying himself probably more than he did on the last
Yeah.
film. Like
Like he was more
he was
relaxed.
just like relaxed. He was like, you know what, this is my last thing. I'm gonna really, make it my own. And
I think the thing is though, like I said, this is a completely different Bond from before, and it really shows in this movie because he's very human. He's not the secret agent robot that you come to know him to be. You know, in the first film, obviously he was human, and you know didn't know how to react to a lot of the things that his job puts him through. And then you see him build up his armor in the second one, and in the third one, he is just cold as hell to everything. With this new film, you start seeing a lot of chinks in that armor. He's not quite as robotic as he used to be, and it really shows because he actually he's enjoying the missions more than he ever has, uh, at least from a viewer's perspective. Because obviously, uh, what's her name? I just completely forgot her name. I've been saying her name the entire time.
the armors.
Yeah, but Paloma, the character name, she like very clearly is either one of the most talented agents in the history of all agencies. To whoop some entire butt for 3 weeks of training, or she obviously did that as a way of testing Bond because she could hold her own in a firefight. And they wrecked a beautiful car, Geoff. They wrecked a beautiful car. They wrecked two beautiful cars by that point. They wrecked the DB5. So mad.
So if you, so obviously we watched the movie together. It was kind of funny listening to David visibly squirm. And when I say listen to him visibly squirm, I mean that exactly how I said it. When the car, the DB5, is going down some stairs and it scratches up against, as soon as it scratched up against the brick, he just visibly was just like, oh no. And then it gets worse. It gets much worse because they're shooting it,
and they run into him.
And yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So,
that beautiful car.
I mean, like it's funny because like that's not the first time it's been wrecked.
I know.
But
I mean that bastard. I can't remember his name out of my fury of my. The bastard
Cyclops
that
dude.
Killed... No, huh? Who? What?
Are you talking about the Cyclops? I don't know.
No.
Who are you trying to refer to?
The oh my god, why is my brain not working right now? The Hispanic guy in Skyfall, the main bad guy. Silva, the character Silva. I couldn't tell you the actor's name, but Silva wrecks the damn DB.
Javier Bardem.
Okay, well, Javier, you're a bastard. How dare you? Why'd you kill my car? But yeah,
it's also funny. Well, okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Are we?
Are you still like in the first half?
I mean, I'm a little upset here, Geoff. I'm still trying to digest that he just. So here we go. So the very first, like before Act 1, like I consider like anything after the main credit intro song thing, anything before that is considered a prologue. So in the prologue, they wreck and destroy this beautiful car, right? You see,
they do wreck it. They do wreck it, but they also do a really good job of paying tribute to it because
yes, every spy gadget out there came out.
Exactly,
it was amazing,
exactly,
it was great.
And they just the close up of the RPMs revving up and everything like that.
Oh yeah, you see it spooling, and you're just like,
so good.
Oh, it was great. Now here's the thing. He breaks up with Madeline Swan because you got to remember Daniel Craig Bond is a secret agent. He's for not decades, maybe, who knows at this point, especially specifically for years, he's had to watch his back. He's got to, the damage from Vesper was obvious because he didn't completely trust Madeline. He wasn't sure about her, even though he was in love with her.
And I think the fact that, they're basically, I don't know anything about what this whole thing was, but apparently in Italy, they have a festival or something where you can burn like a piece of paper and it's got like a dream or a confession or, truth.
I want to say it's either it's a New Year tradition, if I remember correctly.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not an expert, but that's part of the process. Is she's like, listen, I need you to let go of the past if you're going to have a future with me. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool.
Right. So, in French, she gives away a good chunk of this plot. So do you know what she wrote?
No, I didn't know what she wrote, but I have a feeling I know what she wrote. What did she write?
So I don't remember the exact, I haven't done any research, so this is me speculating here, but I do know the French word for mask, and that's what she wrote down. So I want to say she said she wrote the Mask Invader or something to that effect. So she was writing about our main bad guy because of the profound effect on her life that you saw in the prequel. So she was trying to forget him and tell his entire story, or her entire story. Sorry, to Bond. Obviously Bond having a hard time to let go of Vesper. They go to what is it, Spain, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, they go to Spain where she is buried, and he goes to visit her grave. And then what happens, Jeff?
Explosion.
Blown up.
The damn thing explodes.
He gets exploded, but before that, you see the nice little octopus logo of Spectre.
Right.
Those
So
bastards.
I thought they did a really good job of basically making you feel like they did this in the trailers too. They're like, oh, she's got a secret. You know, what could that secret be? Oh, it's she's still working for Spectre, or she's the
Right.
new leader of Spectre, or something ridiculous, right?
Right. She's being controlled, is
Um,
what was my thought. But she's still being controlled, or she's actually a part of the organization, and she's a deep cover mole. Because
right,
again, just like Bond, I'm scarred by Vesper. I can't, because that betrayal was so deep, it was so cutting to the character that you could feel every subsequent action with women around since then was very much because of her as a character.
right.
So obviously after being blown the fuck up, he has no qualms about being suspicious about Madeline. Madeline, of course, has no clue what's going on, and she
Right.
portrays that to the very end of that sequence
Yeah.
when they break up.
Which I just want to point out something. I want to ask you, what do you prior to that moment, what do you think her big secret was?
What her big secret was?
Yeah.
That she was in the sequence. So I'm spoiling a little bit, but in the beginning of the sequence of the prologue, she is saved by this person that was sent to kill was sent to kill her father. So I think that's her big secret, that she knows who she knows who the main bad guy is. She knows that there's one last person out there that could damage their entire future, as a couple. Because Bond is obviously, has deep ties to Spectre. And I have a strong belief that that the main bad guy was a part of Spectre at one point.
So I have a better theory.
Okay, please. I'm really not sure where our main bad guy falls in this whole plot.
Well, so I'll get to that in a second, but she shows you while she's on the train.
Okay.
As soon as she's like, "You'll never see me again," her hands go straight to her stomach.
Yeah. Oh.
She is about to reveal. She is about to reveal to him that she was pregnant.
Spoiler.
It's a spoiler. Listen. We already alluded to this in the beginning. There's going to be spoilers. If they hadn't tuned out by now,
I know. Well, if they, here's your first spoiler. Bond has a fucking kid, but we don't know that yet.
Well, so yeah, basically, I was thinking about it on the ride home because I was like, man, she keeps saying she has a giant secret, and I'll be honest with you.
What do women all say before the reveal?
Well, it's not necessarily that. It's basically like,
I got these scars.
Because if you think about it, she's like, listen, I think we got a good thing going here. Obviously, I think I have his kid right now, but he's still clinging to the past.
Right.
If he really wants to be with me, he'll do this one thing.
Right.
Cleanse the past so we can move forward and, be a family or whatever.
Exactly. Because you got to remember, Bond is still very much a secret agent. That training hasn't gone away.
Right.
He's always looking over your shoulder. He's always, ready and looking at exit points.
So while I think we'll dive into the villain here for a second. So basically, with the villain, essentially, he comes originally to murder Mr. White. He is just there for retribution. That's all.
Right.
Because Mr. White essentially poisoned his entire family.
But somehow
on Spectre's orders. So I don't think he was with Spectre at all. I just happened to think...
you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't even know why I thought that had anything. But here's the thing. Later on the film, when they all kind of come together as colleagues, ironically. Um, she takes him to her home, her real home, which apparently she has mentioned before. And she says in the beginning of the film, after before he leaves to make peace with Vesper, that she wants to go home.
Yeah.
So we know her home where is somewhere. I don't know where her home is. Norway? Is it Norway? Okay. Yeah. So, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the map. Okay, yeah. So in Norway, her home, where she stays, was where her mother was killed.
Right.
And so, she in the prequel, she was trying to get into a secret room that her dad had obviously created, and seriously, for real though, just like Bond, he points this out. What the hell is up with her dad at secret rooms? For real. But she couldn't get in, but she obviously figured out how now. And she talks about how this was the thing that she wanted to show Bond. And that's why I thought, she knows more about Saffron than they ever allude to.
I think it's necessarily being like, look, there's part of my history in this home that you don't know about. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to bear like all of my secrets. Like, this is, what happened. I don't necessarily, so like, to me, I'm struggling a little bit here to figure out how Saffron like even like comes back into play, if that makes sense. And maybe he's just been like in the shadows this entire time.
Well, he says that. He says that in the film. He goes, I've been watching you this entire time, like is all creepy fucking weirdos do. And here, let me say this though. For a guy whose name I forgot, he's a hell of a villain.
Is he really though?
I think he is. I think there's a level of like
I have a problem with him, and I had a problem with Blofeld.
I get Blofeld because I guess they were trying to play too much into that whole Germanic accent, or like, oh, this guy's German, he's gotta be evil.
It's not necessarily that. It's that they made a villain who's like, hey, this is my tragic backstory. And we got the tragic backstory.
My daddy died in an avalanche that I created because I'm like, jealous of my brother.
You're not really like hugely. It's not menacing. Like, he doesn't do anything on screen that would make me be like, oh, that's a really fucked up dude. Like, you just kind of see like indirect things that could be attributed to him, but you never see him.
He's very overwhelming as a bad guy. I agree with you on that on Blofeld. Now,
I would say the same thing on Saffron. Or Saffron.
He almost threw a little girl to be shot like turkey twice.
That was evil. Just, he wasn't going to do anything.
How do you know? He left her to die, basically.
No, he just left her. He was just like, you're not really of any use to me anymore.
Fair enough. Which,
I mean,
I'll give you that. He to me,
actually, I will tell you who the real villain of this film is, and it really pissed me off. M.
Mallory.
Yeah.
You know what? I got it. You know what? You're not wrong.
I spent this entire film being really pissed off at Ralph Fiennes.
You mean really pissed off at Voldemort?
Yeah.
Voldemort pissed you off?
And also, he just looked, I don't know if this is correct. He just looked, he looked different than in the last film. And I don't know if we're just going to leave it at that. I'll be polite.
You look like a haggard ass drunk.
It was the fact that he was just like hiding all this shit and being like, yeah, like
I created the ultimate weapon, but for good.
And the fact at the like halfway through, he's like, it was never meant as a weapon of mass destruction. I was like, bitch, nothing is ever created as a weapon of mass destruction. It always has the potential to be. And like, you understood the technology this entire time about how it could be potentially used in a bad way.
Right.
And yet he still authorized it. I was just so pissed at him this entire movie. He was
I
the real
mean,
villain. Let's be real.
and Saffron basically used that technology against them. So Saffron ordered the hit on Spectre and completely wiped them out. And he's like, I'm missing one last person to exact my revenge. And of course, the one person is Madeline Swan's fuck me, arch nemesis and Bond's brother in law, stepbrother,
Stepbrother, yeah.
adopted brother. I guess would be the better term. His adopted brother Blofeld or Blofeld, and either way, the very underwhelming return of Christopher Waltz was obviously there, and then Bond touched him because apparently the entire time we had to establish the fact that anything that this mystery weapon touches instantly kills that person because it's coded to their DNA.
Which,
so
don't get me wrong, I was the actual like weapon in this movie.
It's terrifying.
It's pretty rough, and I can see why they actually held back from releasing it, because if you think about it, when that map was going up on the screen, I don't know if you were thinking about it, but I was thinking of
COVID.
What's that pandemic simulator?
Plague?
Yeah, Plague Inc. I was literally thinking of Plague Inc. I was like, oh fuck, that looks just like the goddamn Plague Inc. game where like the little red dots were starting to group up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, this isn't fucking hitting close to home or anything.
Right. If only they just moved that all those dots from London to China, I'd have been like, oh, it's COVID. But maybe this is what that is. Maybe that's why they didn't want to release it during the COVID crisis. Oh, wait, they did. Is this what really happened? You heard it here, folks. Conspiracy theory number 665. COVID is actually a DNA virus that was created by M in the James Bond universe.
I mean, like, there's just a lot of different things in this that didn't really that made me just a little upset. And I'm gonna get nitpicky a little bit later.
Let's go. Let's deep dive into this.
Oh, right.
Before that, let's talk about a couple things real fast before we deep dive. Your thoughts on Lashana Lynch as Naomi 007?
So I liked her a lot.
She was excellent.
She was in Captain Marvel as well.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. She was the pilot friend.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. Doesn't matter. She made an excellent 007. I thought it was great and actually pretty amusing when she was very upset that Bond got reinstated as a 00, and the only thing she cared about.
What number is he?
What number was he assigned?
Maria Rambeau is who she was in Marvel.
Of course, she was a Rambo.
So they really played with the whole fact that she might have been a double agent this entire time.
They really did.
Because especially when she was going to like the house, he's like, "Well, the fuck is she over here? I thought she was supposed to be doing this." And he's like, "I literally was waiting for the moment during that chase sequence later on in the film, like the window's gonna roll down, and she'd be like, 'Hello, James.'" Just like all fucking sinister like, and he'd be like. It's like, "Well, I'm glad that you gave me back the 00 status because you've never been a 00 truly," or something fucking stupid.
No, but it turns out Logan Ash killed fucking Leiter, that bastard, and ended up being the mole / double crossing agent bastard this entire time. But let's talk about Q real quick. I don't know about you, but Ben Whishaw? Yeah. He's out and about as a gay man. And I like in this film they allude, not specifically state, but they allude very strongly that Q is also gay.
Yeah. They finally were like, "Hey,
as a character.
Let's introduce I thought that was a nice touch too.
Yeah, I thought it was. Well, you never see it. It's never shown.
It was
But
never. It never. The nice thing is that it was kind of subtle. It wasn't
it's
like
very
banging you
subtle,
over the head because
right? It had no
that's
real impact on the universe or the characters at all in any
that's
real fashion. But it was a nice nod.
that's one thing that would have been just really annoying.
If they
Is
bang you on the
that
head, it,
no? Because like you have movies in some situations and TV shows that'll introduce that as like checking off the box. Like,
yeah,
hey, we're inclusive, and
right.
it
I mean,
should
to be
never.
fair, a strong black female 007 agent wasn't a pretty big thing already. I would say like this whole thing would have been kind of undertone. I would say I feel like it would have been almost pandering at that point, which I think is one of the main reasons why they
I think it
decided.
was. I think it was a little weird about how aggressive she was in being like, "Oh, I've got your title now. Are you okay with that? I guess I'll have to prove it to you that I'm the better person or whatever."
Actually, I don't
And
because
and
if
then and then at the end, she's like, "Oh, yeah, you can have it. I don't really care."
it's just an, I mean, no, she does care. It's very obvious that it was like it wasn't necessarily like so. Like, here's the thing, you know, for me, this is how I took Naomi. Like, she's a hot shot. She kicks ass like you would not believe. Her character is shown like, hey, look, I'm a go getter. I earned my 00 status by just this is where I want to be kind of attitude. And here comes this dude, the legendary James Bond, because he is legendary at this point. He has earned his status. Obviously, like Ash, the double crossing agent, even says, I'm a big fan of yours. I know everything there is to know. So there is a level of, hey, I'm getting the 007 status. I have to prove that I earned this 007 status. But not only did I earn this, I needed to prove that I earned this 007 status, but I have to earn the fact that I have one of the most coveted numbers assigned. Because that let's say like at this point, in this particular continuity of Bond, he's been in operation for years, if not decades, as
Right.
007. He's earned that status of like legendary.
I am
To get that number. It's a lot to live up to, and I can see why she was so aggressive at this guy coming back, trying to say almost like, "Hey, you're in my territory. You are. This is my number."
which
I get why she was threatened.
which
'Cause
is
that's what that
nice
was.
though. Which is nice though because he was never like he was very I would say gracious is the best way to put it. Is that he was always just like, I mean, whatever, man. You're 007. I'm gonna respect. I'm like he made a point multiple times to be like 007, like when he was talking to her.
Right.
So like obviously he had a little bit of cockiness going back when she was initially like that. But I was a little annoyed that they didn't like formally be like, "Hey, um, this is what your number would be." You know what I mean?
Oh, like
Like
whatever.
where she was like he was reinstated as 007, like, okay, well, what does that make her then?
Well,
Commander Nomi or like what? I don't understand.
I mean, okay. So here's the thing: as a when you enter British Secret Service as a double agent, it's in theory, mind you, in the universe, you're automatically awarded commander status. Like, this is your status in the U.S. in the Royal Navy. As a secret agent. So that being said, that she's automatically a commander because she's a 00 status. Does that make
Well, but
sense?
yeah, it does. But like, what would her agent number be then?
Well, she is 007. That's the thing. She never stopped being 007 until the moment she's like, I guess you could say, officially, unofficially gave up that 00 number to Bond.
Yeah. So
And
what would she
Bond
be
got
then?
back his whatever Bond's number was, because Bond's number, it wasn't stated either. He just got 00 status.
Exactly.
So we could let's just say he's
Plot
0010.
hole. Plot hole.
Oh, please. This movie's full of plot holes. I mean, what the hell happened to between Felix and Bond all those years? They were in service together, because all we see is them two gallivanting in the first film, and then a brief, very brief little thing. I think was it in Spectre? Was it Spectre?
He was an inspector.
He was okay. So he wasn't even in Spectre. It was the one
I don't
before
think
that.
he was in Skyfall either.
No, he wasn't in Skyfall. Say that's
He was.
the thing.
He was in Casino. He was in Quantum, and
Quantum.
then because I hate to say he was very much a product of the original director. No, the original director, Martin. I can't remember his last name.
Oh, either way, you know this character, who at this point obviously had a massive impact on his life. What happened in their years of service together? You know, that's something I want to know. I want to get into those stories.
That's not a plot hole necessarily. That's just lore that could be expanded upon. That's not necessarily a plot hole.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. But okay, you're right. Fair enough. Maybe I'm using the term wrong.
I enjoyed Nomi as 007. I thought she was really, you know, obviously she was capable through and through, so that was great. I don't know,
I would like to know how she got home.
I don't mean, what do you mean how she got home?
Well, you know how they landed in Cuba, right?
Uh-huh.
And James stole her plane.
Oh, I mean, presumably she just calls, you know, MI6 and be like, listen, you fucking stole my plane, jackass.
Maybe she took his boat.
Maybe, right? Like, also, I think it's funny after the fact that they've made a fucking show of this goddamn bulldog in all 3 films in that fucking storage unit.
Oh, I love that throwback.
It's just, they're just like, as soon as it popped up, and I was like, oh, there it is again.
Right. Okay, so here you go. Do you understand the significance of that vehicle that Bond found, where that bulldog was?
I was reading about it, but please,
so
go for it.
So I've already said this before. There's a lot of in Her Majesty's Secret Service throwbacks in this movie. In fact, the last 2 movies really. And one of the bigger the DBS, the Aston Martin DBS makes a comeback in this final film of Craig, as he's driving around. For those who don't know the significance of this car, you know, his last wife, if you will, in the, I think, was it Dalton?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Dalton's tenure was his wife that was killed in that car. So, you know, him going to drive to Madeline Swan, who is essentially very much Tracy, you know, it was kind of like, you're like, oh shit, you know, like there's a little apprehension in this series, like especially when that happens, because you're like, is Madeline about to become Tracy? Is she about to die? When is she gonna die?
And I appreciate that they didn't kill her, because constantly I was just waiting for them to be driving in the car, and all of a sudden she'll be talking, and then you'll see a bullet hole in her head, and she'll go quiet, and then he'll be like, "No!" Like, you know, just like stupid cliche bullshit. And I'm glad they didn't kill her. So, props off to, I guess, the screenwriters for not killing her off. So let's just briefly touch on the end here, because I think we're gonna have to talk about it. So I would say probably the last 30 minutes are probably obviously the most crucial in this.
The final act.
Yeah. So basically all the events that led up to it. So I do want to briefly touch on some stuff here, though. When Bond goes into retirement, he is staying in Jamaica.
Yes.
Do you know why that's so huge?
I know it's mentioned several times, and I was expecting Cuba, but I really don't know. Why is it so huge?
So Ian Fleming, the original...
That's right.
He wrote a lot of the books in Jamaica. And in fact, there is I want to say there's a house or a bar. I could be putting this incorrectly. I'm going to probably fact check this here in a second. Called Goldeneye.
Hmm.
And this is basically where. Hold on a second. It's Goldeneye is originally a novelist Ian Fleming's estate on Orcabessa Bay on the northern coastline of Jamaica. He bought 15 acres adjacent to the Golden Clouds estate in 1946 and built his home on the edge of a cliff overlooking a private beach.
Was
So
that the beach that he was at? Like, was that the home that Bond was at?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
It was a very nice house.
We're gonna say yes.
Well, the house that Bond stays in, by the way, is gorgeous. It's very much a tropical island home, though. So, like, the main living quarters is in one area of the, I guess you could say, home. But the bedroom was a completely different structure further away. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. I liked that they went back to Jamaica.
Where 00 Naomi reveals who she is by taking off her wig and making Bond believe he was about to get a little loving.
Well, I mean, because he's just like, oh, okay, I guess we're going straight to the bedroom, and then all of a sudden,
you know what's really interesting, actually, if you think about it. So in theory, this whole time, Bond has been, potentially celibate for the last 5.5 years.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, the reason why I said potentially, mind you, but the reason why I'm saying that is because you don't see him sleep with any other woman except for Madeline Swan.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, he's retired. He's got his booze and his drink.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. But anyways, so continue on with your cool facts here.
So that's one of the things that I did enjoy. There's the ending of the movie has a couple of different things that I would say were really interesting. First off, and I wouldn't quite classify this as the ending, but we're getting close to the ending. When, he finally makes his way back to Madeline Swan's home.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, all right, we're getting back together. And all of a sudden you look up and there's a kid, and it's those blue eyes.
Yup.
Those blue eyes. And then she immediately is like, oh, that's not your child. Which is what everyone in the audience was like, oh, and then she just killed it. She's like, that's not your kid.
It's not your kid.
Twice. Which begs the question. I was like, hold up. This makes me wonder.
And I go, isn't that kid about 5?
Yes, which is accurate, right? Yeah. So I was like, the entire time I was like, well, okay, if it's not his kid, whose kid could it be? Blowfield's kid? Nah, that doesn't work out. That is a bath. I was like, wait, what if it? I was like, well, then what if it's Safin and her kid? I was like, oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, but no blue eyes.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but like, so the cauldron was there; it was bubbling, and I was like, oh, I wonder whose kid.
I was immediately thinking Revenge Bang.
Oh, maybe. I mean,
for those of our 5 listeners who don't know what a revenge bang is when you date a woman, you break up with her, and in a fit of rage / pettiness, you sleep with a person who looks exactly like that person you broke up with.
I also want to point out that there is such a thing as post-nut clarity. So
continue.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, if you're ever going to go into a bad situation like that, where you're like, I'm going to do a revenge bang, I suggest doing some self-care first. And then after that clarity sets in, you'll be like, oh, maybe that's not such a good idea.
Are you
This is
talking about?
my advice on a podcast that has nothing to do with any of that. But anyways, so I don't know. This movie, I would say, it didn't feel like it dragged on as long as Spectre did, because god damn, Spectre dragged on forever for me. It had a lot
Yeah,
of cool hallmark moments. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer was impeccable,
on point.
especially um, whenever like the Aston was spinning in the very beginning. You hear like those trumpets.
Oh yeah.
Just like it felt so good. That theme song felt so good. The Billie Eilish theme was
Bum,
great.
bum.
Um, all great. The ending of the movie.
Ugh,
It's
I
probably
don't
the
want to talk
most.
about it.
This is the most critical for David, anyways, because I
I want to talk about
honestly,
it.
I think he was shocked by the final moments of the film, but
Yeah, like
um,
any Bond fan would be. Damn
well,
it! Oh,
so there's a couple things like the base. We'll just call it the base of the villain, right? It was a
right.
kind of cool base.
The
The
headquarters.
poison garden was a really nice touch. I liked like all the poison things that were there.
The
I
big old swimming vat of anti-human.
The acid, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
it was. It was like an acid bath, which I don't really know what was being used for.
So what I think it is, I think what it was is a way to it. I don't know if it was acid. It could literally have been some sort of chemical reaction to the
I think
what
it
was
was
it?
acid.
Like so on it, it could be. All I know was like so. Just so you know what we're talking about, in their base, there's basically a pool that a bunch of people in spacesuits are in full-on biohazard material gear are
And they're
trying
like
to shift
farming.
through and
They're like
work in a
farming
farm.
something.
Right, and then it's not until much later in a couple of scenes that you see that they're basically wearing these biohazard suits, wading in some what looks to be like water, but they have huge long sticks with little cups at the end of them. So there's something that they're harvesting that liquid, whatever that liquid may be. I suspect it's the poisoned, the poison runoff that comes from those plants
Oh, maybe.
that they're using to use this super evil DNA weapon that I totally forgot the name of.
Well, and then this Heracles, I think it was.
Heracles, that's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
I'm glad that the scientist eventually. So that was actually kind of surprising. Um, the scientist who they've been they keep running into this entire like fucking film because he's the dude who fucking created the virus. Um, and changes the program at the last second to kill Spectre
Mm-hmm.
in Cuba.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I immediately thought because for whatever reason, anytime I see a bearded, middle-aged, white, balding guy, I think David Cross. Obviously, the main bad guy isn't David Cross, but ironically, it is another David.
Oh, that's
uh,
funny.
yeah.
So basically, he gets kind of fucking annoying at the end, and
I would say he was weirdly strange comic relief.
well, yeah,
Because
but eventually Nomi is like, you know what? Especially when he was like, I could just wipe out your entire race.
oh
As soon
yeah,
as he
that's
said
before
that, I was just like, oh, I should have said that, bud. And he just fucking shoves him into the acid bath, and you're just like, oh, that's what that shit is. It's
well, you do
something.
see
It's
a poor
something
guard get
aesthetic.
melted.
Yeah.
But
I
right,
was just like,
literally seconds before
yeah.
that. But
And
that, yeah, no, that was a very satisfying death.
but it was just funny how like this entire time I would say like emotionally she was pretty calm and collected. She's getting the job done. And then
She
damn.
spares him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he done fucked up. And he gets melted. Oh god. Oh,
So
that's a terrible way to die.
we have basically the villain speech at the end. That's kind of always going to happen. I did like the trap door thing where he just
Mhm.
like sinks into the floor.
Right?
That was pretty
After
cool.
Bond pulls off like one of the most badass sequences of gunplay ever.
Yeah. I
Like he
mean,
just like
in general, the production design was great. Um, I was a little perplexed. So basically, the whole final thing is that he has to get the blast doors open so they can shoot, basically nuke the place.
right.
And he shoots him, and then he does the like crystal thing and like whacks him on the face, and the nanobots obviously have infected him. Question
Right.
for you: do
Hmm.
you think that it because I was reading up, apparently it was designed to kill um Madeline Swan and his daughter,
And her
essentially.
daughter, yep. Yep. Hmm.
Did you also get the sense that it was infecting him, like making him sick?
No, not at all. He was so here's the thing. At first I was
Is
ready
it
for that to happen.
is that what
Because
did the glass like hit his face just to make him
yes,
bleed? Okay.
yes.
See,
Right.
I
So
thought. Oh,
what ended
sorry.
up happening was okay. So here's the thing, So like as soon as Madeline Swan and her daughter reach the evil headquarters,
Right.
um, he is given a red vial, and it's Hercules, but you don't know, or Heracles, sorry, but you don't know what it's
Who it's
programmed
targeting?
to.
Right.
Right. And he goes, it's you and your daughter. It's insurance, is what he says. And she eyes that very carefully. So you're led to believe it's really meant for them to threaten them to die in case anything were to happen to him. Right.
Yeah.
Or they betray him or do cause him any
Well,
grief.
the fact how they killed Blowfield with that was, I was like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Right. Because basically how this Heracles works is it's encoded to whoever's DNA it's targeted, and when it finally reaches that person will die, and the person that's infected is never ever like in danger at all. But the problem is they stay infected forever. So the
Well,
moment he touched Layla Sado's hand, sorry, Madeline Swan's hand, that she sprayed the Heracles on,
right.
he received the bad DNA robots. And
The only reason I say that
mm,
is because they also made a point to show that it could also infect relatives.
right,
Now, if you think about it, if that was truly Bond's daughter,
right.
he would be a relative.
Yes, but he's also only sharing half of her DNA. It was targeted for Swan and thus the child, because we
Hmm,
know Swan's the mother.
I guess.
So
I just
Bond was never I honestly thought it was Bond who's going to get hurt, because I thought it
right.
was his DNA at first. Momentarily, when I remembered he said, "Hey, this is targeted for you and the child," and I was like, "Oh, that's right. Okay, that's why he's not dying. He's only suffering from the 5 bullet wounds."
Which, I mean, were pretty fucking brutal. I'm not gonna lie. But then I realized he, like, when he called Q, he was like, "Are you sure there's no way to do it?" And I realized afterwards, I was like, "Oh, he's basically, we're just gonna get right to it. He's sacrificing himself because
He
he
can't.
realized he would never be able to see them again.
Right.
Because
He
as soon
can't.
as he do, he would kill them."
Right. So, despite the fact, he would have had to basically be in a giant bubble to ever see them for the rest of his life, and that's just torture.
Right.
That has to be torture. So, this is
I
the
thought
best way for him to ensure the destruction of this horrible weapon.
it was just an oddly sweet ending for Craig.
Right.
Until he's like, kind of like, I'm going on my own terms, but very, very definitive. Like, they made a fucking point to show you that, hey, he is very badly wounded. He is not making an attempt to escape the place. There is no him on a speedboat leaving or anything
Right.
like that. He's on
There's
top of the building.
He
Missiles come
climbs to
down.
the top of the building to see the missiles attack him. Like,
He's talking. He's saying goodbye. I love you. Blah blah blah. And then she finally reveals, "Hey, yep, this was your child. Gotcha." And then he's just like, "Oh, I know. That's nice. Thank you. I love you, honey." Blah blah blah. And then the missiles come down like clearly.
You literally see it blown up.
Clearly incinerated
For the fifth time in this film.
Yeah.
Bond is obviously grenade proof because he is getting blown up left and right in this film.
Oh, I love that. I love that grenade sequence on the stairs. The first one drops, and you're just like, he throws it back up.
Yep, that was great. But
And then all of a sudden,
up by that random grenade.
Yeah.
That if that door wasn't in the way, he would have been dead. Like because the force of that door blew him back hard.
All right, we're gonna get into the nitpicks here in a second.
All right.
But I just want to say, like, the ending was well constructed.
Uh-huh.
The ending with them toasting to his death or whatever, very fitting. I still am pissed at him. He should have been like, "This is right." He should have gone full Michael Caine and been like, "This was my fault. I'm so sorry. I failed you all." Blah blah blah. Because obviously it was his fault. Like, Heracles was him.
Right. Not only that, but he also basically said he was going to create an international incident by sending those missiles in the first place. How the fuck does this guy still have his job?
Yeah, there wasn't any he kept the entire time. He was like, "Oh, I don't know, Bond. This is going to be kind of a fucking problem. We're going to start, World War III or blah blah blah." And then at the very end, he's just like, "Man, fuck it, send the missiles. I don't give a fuck." And no fallout as a result of that. So that is one of my nitpicks. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about briefly something else. Blofeld being able to, I would say, manipulate situations out of his jail cell.
That's a plot hole, in my opinion. Here's the reason why I say that, because
they say it's because of his eye,
right? Well, I mean, at the end of the last film, we see that he has a dead eye because of the damage that Bond did to him in the previous encounter, right? So here's the thing: they make a big deal about this eyeball this random henchman has that somehow survives to the end of the story, mind you. This random eyeball that somehow is sending information back to Blofeld, who somehow sees this entire time, and no one's noticed for the last 5 years. Seriously,
it was annoying because, like, you would think, like, they would have something to monitor frequencies. We'll call this a radio frequency. We'll just call it.
That's exactly what it is.
They would have something to monitor for, like, how secure this dude is.
Right.
Radio frequencies. But obviously they're like, "Oh, it's because it was transmitting out of his bionic eye." Which, I mean, it was creepy and kind of cool to see the bionic eye, like, twisting around on Q's desk. But also, he makes a huge point of, like, "I'm going to take this USB stick. It could potentially be compromised. I'm going to put it in a sandbox first." And I was like, "Oh, that's smart. Good man." And then he's like, "No, fuck it. We're going to move it to the main network now."
Right. Like, magically, the missing files.
Not only that, but then he's got the fucking optical eye, which clearly they hacked, or was being transmitting this entire time, right?
Yeah.
And then he just has it hooked up to his network.
Look, Geoff, obviously you don't understand the power of Norton Antivirus. And speaking of Norton Antivirus, this is our next segment. I'm kidding.
This episode is sponsored by NordVPN. Todd will insert a lovely ad from the Internet Historian about NordVPN. If he gets to this part of the recording.
I said Norton Antivirus, not Norton.
No, I know, but fuck Norton. We're only sponsored by the good shit, which is NordVPN. Protect your privacy today. NordVPN.com for more details. Promo code Ranting Media is awesome.
God.
I'm so sorry if you try to use that promo code. It just says error not found. It's not a valid one. I
Now you
apologize in
tell
advance.
him.
So overall, there's a few nitpicks, and I'm sure I'm gonna have to rewatch this again.
Oh yeah,
I
100%.
apologize. The last like 20 minutes, maybe I would actually say the last hour, the theater, like they just killed the AC. So I was just sitting there going like, God, I'm getting warmer and warmer, and my cherry coke had run out by that point. So I was also like a little upset. Um,
My
can
soda
we
wasn't dead, but
can we can
I
we
couldn't drink
also
anymore.
can we just give like a small like little review of Cut by Cinemark?
Okay.
Um, what did you think of that movie theater? So first off, Cut by Cinemark is a
Cinemark.
new Cinemark experience, I would call it. Kind of
With food and
modeled,
drink.
just modeled after, I would say, Alamo Draft House. They bring you food and drink to your table. Alcohol is included, like from their list. Blah blah blah.
I had a very sad looking martini.
I'm gonna not lie to you. When you ordered that and they dropped it off in front of you, they were like, "What was it?" First off, it was License to Chill, right? Was the name
Yeah.
of it. So he's like, "Oh, License to Chill," and you got excited. I could see you get excited. You're like, "Yeah, my drink is here." And he just drops off this little plastic cup with a sad little lemon like slice floating at the bottom. And I just look over and I was like, "That drink fucking cost $11." That is the state that it came in. I was like, no fancy glass, like
not,
nothing
not even a
great.
plastic one. Like you fuckers, you're making plenty of money off of this drink. You're using Smirnoff for shit's sake.
I was also, I'm gonna point out that I was extremely disappointed, and I'm sure Todd will feel this too. Out of the pretzel bites, like how
Yeah.
the fuck are you out of pretzel bites?
Obviously there's a COVID
A
issue with
COVID related pretzel shortage.
pretzel issue. Yeah, it's the salt, man. Someone's got to mind that salt, bro.
The chips and queso was all right. The pizza I would classify as all right. I did not taste truffle on that pizza. They're fucking liars. I don't know what they're talking about.
You didn't taste the dirt.
I tasted zero truffle on that pizza.
Zero earth, got it. So here's the thing. Do you agree with my assessment of the meal? Like it to me, it was
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look. Here's the way I described it. If there was a novice who had every possible mastery tool at their disposal, this is what that food tasted like. Like someone who did not know what they were doing had had the potential to make something great, but just didn't have the ability because it was just like the pizza had a little bit of maybe this could have been great, but then I was like, it fell flat. It was for me anyway. My pizza was very unevenly cooked. It was
cooked
just
well.
like
it was cooked well.
Well, when I mean by uneven, I don't mean like it was raw. I mean okay, some parts had a nice crisp to it. Other parts it felt like there was no heat applied to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. They could have done better, but it is what it is.
Also, I loved that the couple next to us at one point she starts talking and the husband literally just goes, "Shh."
Dude, it was more than once. This lady would not shut up, and the guy was like getting annoyed.
I mean, and then they were.
I applaud the guy.
They're getting super upsetty about the fact that the waiter didn't come by.
Right,
like you have to press the service button. What service button? I was like, I can't help you out more than that. Here it is.
Right. Like literally, it had to be the first time ever in a type of theater like that.
The seats were great.
The seats were super comfy.
I love the seats. The table,
they reclined so far back.
The table left a little bit to be desired.
The table was a little smaller.
Listen,
it was a heated seat.
I tell you what, the style that I miss the most is the original table, long table setup they had at Alamo. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
So I love that because it was deep and you could sit up and actually eat your food properly. And it wouldn't be cramped or crowded. Now it's just really cramped and crowded. And anyway.
Yeah, they don't give you a lot of room to manipulate
They're trying to fit more seats.
Right, which I get it, but there's some smarter ways to do that. You could do a folding tray, like like a nice long, large tray that folds into the armrest. There's ways around it.
I like how you also did a Tetris effect of trash on my side of the table.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because I'll have you know that your martini cup like fell onto the seat when I was trying to grab something.
Oh,
And all of a sudden I just felt this wet, slimy lemon slice. And I was just like, oh fuck. The martini has fallen. So
well, don't worry. The lemon slice was properly disinfected.
yeah, well, I mean, I hope so. All right. So, anyways, I think that's gonna wrap us up for this special No Time to Die Real Reporters edition. I guess I don't know what the best way to call it. I do want to promote Extra Life.
Yes.
I believe this is tentative right now, so I apologize if this is incorrect and or changes. December 5th is when we're going to be doing it.
I believe you are correct.
You can head on over to rantymedia.com/extra life for more details. But as we are doing in years prior, except for me because I'm an old man and I'll only be on for a couple hours, we're playing games for 24 hours straight. Basically, we're going to be taking donations, and all donations goes to. I can never say this correctly. Texas Children's Miracle Network Hospital. Yes, we're going to say that. All the donations goes directly to them. It goes to children in need. It goes for hospital care.
It's a good cause.
Everything that a child who needs care at the hospital would need. It's a great cause. This is now our fourth year doing it? Question mark.
I think fourth.
I think it's fourth. We joined forces with I completely forgot that podcast name now. Holy shit, what was the podcast named?
Neat Trash?
No, it was before Neat Trash.
Oh,
this is terrible. Retrospects.
Oh my lord.
Jim, I'm so sorry. I forgot your dead podcast. R.I.P. Retrospects. We joined forces. We joined forces with the Retrospects lads. They're basically now absorbed in the main Ranty Media group. You've been seeing them probably on our Twitch stream, so we'll be seeing some more of them on the Extra Live stream this year for sure. But anyways, thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Geoff Stevens. Tonight I've had with me Mr. David Feldman. You all have a great night.
Would they be like the Naomi to our James?
I think her name was Nomi.
I did say Naomi. It's Nomi. It's Nomi.
It's not. And on that note, good night. Shaken, not stirred.